Hello and welcome to Spore Journeys. And I'm delighted to be here with Max and Nikki today, who's been on a wonderful forest walk. Welcome to the podcast, Max and Nikki.
Thank you for having us.
No problem at all. Max and Nikki are the founders of the All Things Fungi Festival, which is I had the pleasure of going to last year. But before we get into that, I really wanted to ask you how you found fungi. How did you get into mushrooms and nature?
Do you want to go first?
I came into the mycology world via art, and it really just was stumbling across the beauty of it, the colors, and was drawn to all kinds of mushrooms because of shape, sizes, everything about it. And then I think once you start to look into it at the illustrated side, it wasn't giving me enough information. So I started finding the actual books and the writers of the books, and you just go down this amazing rabbit hole and haven't stopped. And it keeps spreading, that mycelial thread. It's just now it's spread to slime molds, different kingdom, trees, everything that's related with it. So when I think about fungi, I think about everything that's associated with it too.
Yeah, it's all about connection, and it's amazing. The forest is an ecosystem. So, and you said it's a rabbit hole that you go down. How about you, Max?
My deep dive into fungi probably started about 8 years ago when I started documenting the fungi that I was finding in my local area. So I was taking pictures of them, and I wanted to post the pictures and put a name to the mushroom. And I realized that if you want to name a mushroom, then you have to get a microscope or DNA sequencing equipment. So fell down that rabbit hole. My first encounter or memorable interaction with mushrooms probably happened about 25 years ago, and kind of kept in touch ever since. But the real deep dive has been in the past 8 years, and in that time I've studied and found lots and lots of different species, which has been really entertaining. But I guess through art as well, because my background is photography. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a mycologist. I'm a photographer that has an obsession, probably an unhealthy obsession for fungi. So it's been an interesting journey, and here we are now.
Yeah, and that got you really into macro photography as well. So you want to just explain that a bit more to people?
Of course. It did get me into macro photography, actually. I wasn't into macro photography prior to fungi. I started finding tiny things and realized I needed a specialist equipment and technique to be able to capture the intricate detail of these tiny things at high magnification. So fungi really got me into macro photography, and it's been really interesting to see the journey of a lot of people like myself in recent years, and how much it's progressed and how much better people are at taking pictures of tiny things now. It's amazing to see that, including myself. If I look back at when I first started, my pictures are way better now than they were back then. But I think that's constant progression in life, and I think as an artist you're never really happy with anything you do, so there's always room for progression. It's been fun.
Great. Yeah, I'm here with two wonderful artists. So, and Nikki, do you want to just talk a little bit about your art, what the art that you're doing, and I'd love to find out a bit more about that.
Yeah, my art at the moment is focusing on the flora, fauna, and fungi, and the above ground, below ground, and now it's the middle ground, the soil. I'm getting fascinated with too, and it was about the colors, the artistic license of it. But the more I learn about fungi, the more I want to go down to that scientific route. Again, I'm not a mycologist. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a lover of mycology, and I want to be able to represent that through my artwork. And so I work on large scale pieces. I created a piece in our field during COVID that was enormous. I can't remember feet wise. It was a good one field size, and we had a drone to capture it from above. And it was using things that had been cut down or had fallen down, and just wanted to do that full circle of using everything possibly that was in the garden, and really enjoyed the large scale aspect of it. And so the pieces I'm working on now are about 244 centimeters high by 144 centimeters wide, and that depicts, again, above ground, middle ground, and below ground, and adding mycelium. And it's about putting everything together, and hopefully, thanks to Max using UV now, just trying to entice people to look that little bit deeper and become curious about every aspect of it. Also, because you want people to learn and walk away from it and have that interest in it. So any way that I can tell a story through my art, that's what I'm trying to achieve. And it's also a real learning curve for myself. It's a constant moving forward and journey. And I'm finding out more and more about Victorian, especially women who weren't allowed to study sciences during the time, and they were highly disregarded, and now they're coming to the forefront and getting that recognition. I mean, there's people like Beatrix Potter, who we all know for Peter Rabbit, but she was an amazing mycologist and illustrator of it, and I just find that fascinating. I mean, there's numerous women that you could quote who really opened up that field for everyone.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. The big art installation through COVID. Have you got video or pictures of that?
I do.
Okay, well maybe we can attach that in the show notes. That'd be amazing to have a look at that. I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Me neither.
Pardon?
I haven't seen it.
See, Max has not seen it either. So there you go.
It's about working on, very little money, because it seems like mycologists and artists are the least paid in this kind of professions. And it was working with what you've got to represent fungi. And again, taking that artistic license and trying to tell a story using color, texture, smell, all the senses just to get you in there. And it was amazing, because working barefoot and being grounded and that, I think that's also that big journey, is going out into the woods. It pulls you out there. So you're not just looking on your phone. You're not looking just in books. You are out there observing.
Yeah. We all part from nature. We get so far away from it these days with technology and cities and etc. But just going on the walk and that grounding is, you can't buy it really. It's amazing. Yeah. So
we're very privileged to be able to have access to nature where we live. Not everybody has that, and I think that's a lovely angle of the festival as well, is to allow people to come to a space where they can connect with nature using fungi as the focus. But big picture wise, that seems to be what's lacking in society at the moment. We're living uncomfortably, comfortably in many ways, but not a natural way, where we aren't connected to the land or the seasons changing and things like that. And being able to offer a space for people to come and experience those things is very cool.
Yeah, that's that's what we try and do at Mycelium Hub. It's what can we learn from nature and take the kind of characteristics of mycelium. Which is
be a privilege. It should be a right.
Everybody
should have access to that, because it's all about health too, mental health, all of that. It really plays a role in that, for your heart rate to slow down, for the fresh air. There isn't anything that you don't benefit from being outside in the woods.
Yeah, getting dirty as well, getting your hands dirty, feet dirty, good bacteria on your to feed your own microbiome.
Yeah. I love the fact that there's the Victorian mycologists as well, especially female, as you were saying. So I always feel like the UK, people get a bit nervous about mushrooms or touching mushrooms and thinking, well, am I gonna get something by doing that? And it's like, whereas somewhere like China and other countries, they grow up with the use of those. And I guess there's been this explosion of functional mushrooms recently, so people are starting to really find out a bit more about the benefits that you can get from them.
It's easy it's easy to kind of spiral into conspiracy theory as to why we are mycophobic in the UK. I'd love to get to the bottom of that and figure out why that actually is. It is definitely a learned behavior, because like you say, other cultures, even Europe, there's a lot more kind of closer links and history with collecting mushrooms and those sorts of things and using mushrooms. So it's really interesting why we're mycophobic in the UK. I'd love to get to the bottom of that, but without diving into conspiracy theories. It's kind of, I don't know if we're going to get answers there, are we?
Well, it's education. I think it's the elders program, the passing of information from generations down. And a lot of Europeans are taken out by their grandparents and great-grandparents, and they're educated through being on site with it, and they're learning. And we don't have that. I believe we don't have that as much here, if at all. And what we do have is, don't touch that. That's poisonous.
Exactly.
That's it. If I don't know about it, then
That's it.
I just stay away from it. But if you look at it, I mean, there's more poisonous plants that we walk past.
Yeah, I'd be way more worried
Yeah.
about plants. And I think for anyone that is listening that may think that it is, you can't touch a mushroom if it's poisonous. You can. You just don't want to ingest it. You can touch the most deadly mushrooms as long as you're not eating it, then you're absolutely fine. So it's funny that that is something that's still regurgitated in the UK. This all, don't touch it, it's toxic. And whereas with plants, everyone's quite happy to, you know, feel the texture of a leaf and things like that. Whereas there are actually plants which, if touched, could cause reactions way more so than fungi. So yeah, it's interesting as to why we are mycophobic.
Yeah.
If anyone's got answers,
Yes. We'll
us
get
know.
people to add in the comments. Add in the
Please.
comments. So let's move on to the kind of festival, the All Things Fungi Festival, and the genesis of that. I mean, how did you two meet? You know, and let's start a festival, kind of a mushroom festival, kind of even come into being?
Yeah, well, how did that happen? I met Nikki at an exhibition, your exhibition in Glynde Place, which is a beautiful place, and my landlord was Airbnb-ing my old house, so I had to move out, and the exhibition happened to be on the same road as the married couple that I was staying with at the time. And I just thought, oh, you know, I haven't got anything else to do. I'll go down and check this art out. And I'm glad I did, because it was incredible. And we met, obviously, got talking by that fire, as I remember. And yeah, we decided to meet up and go and look for some springtime mushrooms, with some elusive morels which appear on the chalky ground on the downs. We went out and looked for mushrooms, and I think that was, did the festival discussion happen day one? I can't remember.
It seems like it. I mean, everything
might
seemed
have
to have
been.
happened day one. I mean, we just, it's,
Yeah, just clicked and it just said we should do something.
Yeah, our brains work at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and
Right.
that kind of helps. So we will interrupt each other. We will have a million conversations. And I think a lot was discussed immediately. And I think I always felt that there was a gap in the market for a mushroom festival in the UK.
Yes.
It needed to happen for the community. It needed to happen for many reasons. And yeah, we just, through people that we met, we had an opportunity to do it. And at very late notice, we just decided to go ahead with it. And I think we only had like a few months to plan the first year. But luckily, we obviously had the help of Hugh, who runs another festival called Into the Wild. So infrastructure was provided by him, which is logistically, that's a massive headache for any festival.
Yeah.
So that really got us going short notice. And yeah, it's a real privilege for us to be able to put it on. It feels like a great responsibility to do it. It's such an important subject in so many ways that it's our baby, you know, we have to represent it in the best way possible and make sure we tick all the boxes for all things fungi, you know, because there's such a broad subject when you really get into it. You mentioned functional mushrooms. That's just a fraction of you know, the grand scheme of things. In Kingdom Fungi, there's so much to talk about: soil health, mental health, food security, mycoremediation, all of these subjects which are hugely important for the future of the planet. And yeah, it just seems crazy that they aren't the main focus for everybody. I think most people who dip their toe into fungi suddenly realize that this is the most important thing in the world, and we have to figure out exactly what's going on. And with it being such a vast subject, we're never going to get to the bottom of things. But it's a great subject to study because it feels like it's so new, really, with it only being separated from plants and animals in like the 70s. And since then, it's been understudied and underfunded.
I believe it's just actually, it's only just been given its own separate kingdom. It's called fungi. I think they had to call it funga rather than fungi.
That's Juliana, isn't it? They've added protection status to it. So flora and fauna were protected previously, and I think funga has now been added to that. But it was separated from plants and animals in 1969.
Right. Okay.
And but even then, grand scheme of that was when we supposedly landed on the moon.
Yeah.
Not that long ago.
Not another conspiracy theory.
I don't want to paint a picture of myself.
Juliana from the Fungi Foundation really has led
Right.
the way, and that's in Chile, that's in South America, and it's the community pulling together. And I just want to say that without the community, without the support of Richard, who has doing all the grown-up stuff and the things that nobody wants to do, all the accounting behind the festival, as much as we get to do all the fun stuff.
Richard's your husband, just for that purpose of people.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. The man behind the scenes, a superstar. Yeah, sure.
Very much so. And the team. I mean, we've got volunteers. We have people who've been there from year one who really have given their time and their effort and their support and their trust and patience, a lot of patience, because Max and I cannot spell. And there are quite a few mistakes that have gone out there, and they've been very kind and have allowed it to happen, to continue with various...
I don't think people realise that the festival is literally the three of us and the volunteers.
Amazing.
So we do everything. Marketing, Richard deals with spreadsheets and stuff, which we don't get. We're kind of artistic brained, neurospicy types, and Richard's definitely got the accounting side down. That's not our forte, but we do everything. We do the marketing, we do all the promotion, we do the organization. The first year and the second year we pretty much built it and took it down ourselves as well.
Amazing.
Health and safety, that was really fun.
Edit that bit out. But it's a labor of love, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's really cool to see. Like at the time, I've got to be completely honest, I can't say I enjoyed it that much. It was so busy, but the response from everybody and seeing everybody else enjoy it after I got over it a few months later, it was really nice to reflect and see what we'd achieved. And
I mean, I reference it, not that you two would know, but I reference it as giving birth, that being pregnant, that that glow that you have and the excitement of what's to come, and as it gets closer, you're like, oh, this is actually happening. Oh my God, I know nothing about this, and the imposter syndrome, and what are we going to do, and what if, and all of these things, and then you birth this beautiful event, and it was amazing. And again, everybody being so helpful and wonderful and enjoying it and coming together, and then the takedown, and you're sitting there going, and you're exhausted and you haven't slept, and then you're like, I don't want to ever do this again. And then just enough time goes by when people are like, oh my God, that was amazing, and would you please do this again? And we're like, oh, actually that wasn't so bad, let's do it again, and forget everything that happened.
We're lucky because the community make the event, and that we're really blessed to have such an amazing, diverse, incredibly talented bunch of people that are into mushrooms. Like everybody that's into fungi tends to be of a certain ilk, I guess, and we're really lucky that the community is so great and they make the event what it is.
Yes, I said I went to my first one last year, and I was just taken aback by how the connections that people are making, the interest the interest in people that you met, the deep conversations, the people that do know know a particular part of fungi, then people coming together and sharing their information. So it is like the mycorrhizal mushrooms, where everyone's sharing information and everything else. And it's also alcohol free.
Yes, dry event.
Which again, I think makes a big difference. Actually, I was really delighted that was the case, and I actually quite like a drink at a festival. But actually, not having drink, I think you make even deeper connections.
I agree.
And you're not having to hide behind drink or anything else. You're just being you and being authentic, and that's that's what I like about it. It's an authentic festival.
Yeah.
People are there. There's no hidden. It doesn't feel like there's any hidden agendas by anybody that's going. There's no one's trying to sell you stuff that's not that's not genuine or from the heart.
Much like the mycelial connection.
Exactly.
You're looking at music, wellness, art.
Yeah.
lectures, all of these things, and in the center is that core, and it all overplays with each other, and that's what's so amazing. You've got mycologists who are musicians, who are artists, you left brain, right brain, and you put them all together, and the things that you get to create with them. And what we love is the community that has connected over time through this, and we hear people have spoken to other people and they've come up with ideas and they're doing other things and overlapping with each other.
Yeah, like even I remember the first year something stuck out to me a little bit, because there's certain things where people may be a bit gatekeepery with information. That I think with the boom in interest in fungi, everyone's kind of rushing to put their foot in the door. And I think with certain industries there can be like gatekeeping. And I remember the first year there was a lot of cultivators, because you got these different factions of people that are into fungi. You got people that grow fungi, you got people that are into sort of studying fungi on a deeper level, and then you've got people that are into psychedelics and things like that. And none of them seem to really talk or share information. They're just doing their own thing. And then you've got people who forage, and it's interesting to see when you put these people together and they start sharing information, and particularly the people that were cultivating. I thought that was really amazing, that people were discussing technique and sharing these things, and maybe even like reducing their costs and overheads because of other mistakes that other people have made. And I think that's really lovely, just to see that people are working together and they've met at the festival and then they're off doing this thing. And we see them a year later and they're like, oh yeah, we've been working on these people and working with this. And it's really amazing to see that community.
Amazing how many connections that we've made at the Mycelium Hub since from that event, from a few days, being there for a few days. And I know that you wanted to speak about Chris and the Mycopunks team. I know he's creating this year, he's putting a big tent in, and I think there's going to be a lot of workshops there and collaborations for these small mushroom growers or businesses that maybe start as like husband and wife, or go with the teams that have got something really special, and it's like, but they're struggling to kind of, how do we how do we get from that to something that can sustain us? And they start as passion projects and turn into something else, which is much like Chris's story. We spoke to him the other day, and it's like his story is like, oh, this might just get me by, and now he's got this booming business, but it's all centered around community and helping helping others to do the same.
Well, it's giving the confidence. We had somebody who reached out to us who attended the festival the first year, and they came back and said, we have been so obsessed with fungi since then that we would like to come back and teach a workshop. And to have that offering, to see that journey is wonderful. So it's having everybody come together, which we just to be able to facilitate what's happening, and it's amazing to watch.
Yeah. I should just say a quick shout out for our team, my team in Sweden, Mycelium Hub in Sweden, which we were talking about earlier, about in September. In September, actually August, September, October time, where the whole forest just turns into a mushroom playground. And that's where we tend to have our events, and people come and stay at the hub there and really immerse themselves in nature and just go and pick your dinner, basically. It's a wonderful thing.
Well, it's a perfect example how all of us met and where that's leading to in that whole journey. And then you've got Renee from Pills Fest in Europe. And so it's all coming together. And as Max said, there's no gatekeeping. You just want to share the information because it is out there and there's no point in trying to hide it. The more we can all communicate, the better it benefits everyone.
Yeah, there's not too many egos in the mushroom space at the moment, which is nice.
What are you most excited about, or is there anything new this year that's coming that you think, oh, that's I'm really super pumped, super excited about that?
I mean, that's a whole 3-hour conversation podcast. But I think you mentioned with Mycopunks doing the community mycology area, I'm really excited about that. I want to double down on the educational aspect of the festival and give everybody an opportunity to level up. I'm very fortunate enough to have the time and the spare income to purchase a microscope, which was necessary for identifying, or at least getting closer to identifying a species. So being able to provide facilities for people to come and do that and get to grips with it first, before, if they're kind of umming and ahhing, they don't know what equipment to use. So just giving people the tools that they need to be able to come in at their own pace without it being too formal. So you can come and ask questions, use a microscope, clone a mushroom, use a flow hood, pour some agar, because without doing it, you don't know, and people are quite afraid. I think naturally, when you haven't done something, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking. So to provide a space for people to dip their toe into all of these things and then go off and level up in their own time, that's really exciting for me, that area. What else is exciting? There's loads going on. There's the new music, there's new art. It's really exciting. We've got bushcraft this year. I think with the fungi festival, there's so much scope because fungi literally underpin life itself. They're so integral. We wouldn't be here without them.
Absolutely not.
If we want to do a bat walk, we will, because there's fungi that are creating habitat that bats will use to roost. Nature is connected in all of these ways. So whatever goes, anything goes really at the festival, doesn't it? So we'd like to tap into that nature connection aspect and get people the relevant skills to be able to build a fire or set up a camp. I think that those things are just tie in really nicely to fungi.
It's amazing with them. I mean, it's I watched a talk from Mark Viola last year and Dennis, and just about Michael Banner and we were and Micah Stories, and we were talking about the different uses of mushrooms and fungi and mycelium, and I think he sent an infographic recently, just at the explosion of just different businesses and different groups. And the uses and really what mushrooms can solve. It's like, as you said, without mushrooms we wouldn't be here, and I expect that mushrooms will be the ones that keep us going rather than us destroying the planet. They hope because they can they can be used in so many different ways and to solve so many different problems. And only just touching the surface on what's possible there.
They were here before us; they'll be here after us.
Sure.
And
yeah.
I mean, on the art side, I've got, of course, mention the art. Having Julie Beeler from the States, who wrote the Mushroom Atlas book.
Oh, so who was the name?
Julie Beeler.
Okay.
Is coming over from the States and is friendly with Sydney Overton Singleton, who we had last year, and he was doing these amazing dyes and natural dyes.
Oh, that's just
and she's coming this year and doing her dyes and doing these workshops, so you can do hands-on workshops, and the fact that she's staying on site for the whole festival, and that's the thing what makes it so amazing is this is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and the contributors are staying on site. They're there walking around. They're there to talk to afterwards instead of rushing off. You can sit by the fire and you can have a proper conversation, and you can really indulge these questions that you wouldn't have time for. And so having her do these workshops where you can actually learn something is phenomenal.
And I think you've also got Merlin Sheldrake come in as well. So for the people that aren't into the fungi festival, one of the most incredible books is the Entangled Life, which is and he's going to be coming in, and he's going to the reason I said that was because he's going to be staying for the 3 days as well. And that's what's so great about the festival. You've not got these artists coming in doing my set and then buggering off, right? They're kind of there and they're integrating because they want to be there because it is a community, and that's what I love about it.
What? I know, I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh,
that's it. I got it. The thing is, we're sitting here talking mushrooms and fungi and mycelium and all of that, and I don't want to scare anybody off who isn't into the deep dive, who hasn't gone down the rabbit hole, and that's why we have art and wellness and, the bushcraft, all that, because there is 101. There is Mushroom 101. If you want to learn just to the basics of it, everybody's got to start somewhere. And if you don't want to go 5 layers deep, you can just dip your toe into it. And so we have all of that on offer. And there's always somebody who can walk you through it. And I find mycologists are one of the most patient people ever. And I found that with Max. Every time I picked up a little Mycena or something, like, Max, look this. And he goes, Mycena. Max, look at this one. Mycena. And I think I did that a lot. I still do it.
Thousands of them, so
exactly.
There's plenty to choose from.
But yeah, a lot of patience.
Great. And I guess another thing that I think you're quite passionate about, Max, we were talking on our walk, which isn't strictly fungi, but you've kind of crept it into the festival, is the slime moulds. So do you want to just maybe talk a bit about that? And I know that you do a workshop, but you might want to just give...
God, we're going to be here for 5 hours.
Okay, we haven't got 5 hours, but you could just give... But no, it'd be great to just kind of understand, for people that, well, what is slime mold, and yeah, kind of, yeah. So I know you do
course,
workshops
yeah,
and stuff
so
like that, and people want to check you out, how
thank
they
you.
can find you.
Yeah, I'm running some workshops at the moment at the One Garden in Brighton, and I'm doing them on Sunday. And the reason I'm saying that is because we honor Slime Mold Sunday. It's kind of like a hashtag that's used on Instagram, and I think it might have started on Facebook. It was started by an amazing American mycologist called Leah. I forget her second name, but Leah Mycelia was her handle for a little bit. She's very well respected.
Okay.
And she also started the Slime Mold Appreciation Society, which is a group on Facebook. And there's some incredibly knowledgeable people in there, which I sometimes chuck my photos in and ask for help if I'm stuck with things, which is pretty regular. But yeah, slime molds are interesting. I think a lot of people who are into mushrooms gravitate towards them, especially macro photographers, because when you're looking at, we were discussing this earlier, what's the difference between macro and micro fungi? So I really like micro fungi as well as macro fungi as well as normal fungi. But when you're looking for micro fungi, occasionally you come across slime molds. So slime molds are a separate kingdom entirely. They're a class of amoeboid protists, and they're just really fascinating little creatures, I suppose you could call them. They have an interesting life cycle, and I think that people that are into mushrooms like them because they develop this structure which is like a spore dispersing sporangia, it's called. So in a sense their life cycle is similar in that bit, but then they have this plasmodial stage where they creep about the forest floor in search of food, and they eat nutrients and bacteria, and some of them even eat fungi, which is quite fun. And yeah, they're really interesting. A lot of scientists have been using them. I think you mentioned earlier on about the Tokyo subway system, which is probably the most famous study, where some scientists used oats in place of the stations and introduced the slime mold to that scale map, and the slime mold organized itself in the most efficient manner, mapping the Tokyo subway system within about 26 hours. So they have been used to find escape routes on new builds, and NASA are even using them to develop an algorithm to help them understand dark matter because of the way they aggregate. They kind of have this complex filamentary network, and they find the quickest route to the food source. And I think NASA are understanding that kind of network looks very similar to the way dark matter behaves. So that's kind of interesting. So if that's not enough to pique your interest, then there's plenty more. But they're actually a little bit easier to identify than fungi, where there's only around about 1,000 species, whereas in the UK you're probably looking at 15,000 mushrooms. That's not even including fungi. We're not even talking rusts, smuts, molds and yeasts and things like that. They're big numbers then, so they're a little bit easier to narrow down at least. But another understudied area.
And how do they find out where your course is? Where would they?
That will be on the One Garden website. It's in Stanmer Park in Brighton.
Okay.
And I think there's a couple of dates left now. I'm also doing a macro photography workshop there. I should probably shout that as well.
Okay.
And I've got a couple of macro workshops booked in at the Royal Parks, who've been amazing at supporting me and what I do. I've been commissioned to shoot fungi, slime molds and insects, pollinators and things for them, as well as run macro photography for beginners, which they're putting on for free with support from the People's Postcode Lottery, which is really cool.
Nice.
So if the angle of the macro photography course is to actually try and make it accessible for anybody, even without equipment as well, because I'm a firm believer in being able to improve people's photography skills, even if it's just using a phone. I think macro photography, some of the equipment can be quite expensive, so it's not as accessible for people. So my courses are basically bring whatever camera you've got and let's try and work out how to improve on what you've got.
Amazing.
Which is possible with stuff you can find around the house, and good lighting is really important. So teaching people how to light their subject a little bit better.
Great.
And on the art side of it, with slime molds, they make an amazing subject. There are some wonderful artists who are working with slime molds. They're all on social media if you want to have a look. And what they're doing with it, with the sound reverberation and just everything. I mean, they're people are playing and experimenting and coming up with some amazing things because of it.
Great. Well, we'll put in the show notes. We'll put the links to your to where your courses
That'd
are
be
and stuff
amazing.
like that.
Yeah, thank
That would be great.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And Nikki,
yeah,
okay,
just
go on.
would say one more thing. If anyone can't afford to come on the courses, just message. We keep a few spaces for the paid courses, even like for free, so people can come along.
And actually, the other thing, just before come back to Nikki, would be that you're on the Instagram, your Insta handle as well, where you can see your photos and your images, which are incredible, right? I mean, I absolutely love the photos there. Again, we'll just put that. And what's that? Is that under All Things Fungi? Or is that
All Things Fungi was where it kind of all started, which is a bit annoying considering I do post a lot of slime molds, but we're stuck with it now.
Right, good, fantastic. And Nikki, how do we find? So I've noticed actually on your website it's Jana Nicole. So is that your kind of artist name, or is that your real name and you're just Nikki? You people like a Nikki? What's the?
It's Jana Nicole is my real name,
okay.
And it was just such a big name that my mother started calling me Nikki, and it's one of those that has stuck. So officially I'm Jana Nicole, but I just love everybody to call me Nikki. It's a lot easier.
Okay. And in terms of what your projects you're working on at the moment outside of the festival, is there any way to find people can find your work or the work what you're doing at the moment? Yeah.
If you happen to be in Chile next week.
Chile, okay, that's right.
I've been invited by the Reno Festival, Fungi Festival, to go to Pucón as artist, and I've created a large scale.
Oh, I don't know how to do that. That's my phone.
That is your phone. That's not my art scale.
Let's get them in on the podcast.
Yeah.
Let's surprise them.
Yeah, this is a call-in.
Yeah.
It'll go eventually, so it's just, I don't know if that's going to just...
I can wrap it.
We should put them on the spot.
There you go, yeah. How dare you wrap. Yes, so I am going to Pucón, Chile next week, which is end of April. And they're amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. They're in their third year, and it's all about environmentalism and protecting fungi.
Yeah.
And so it is creating a very large piece and somehow fitting it into one very small suitcase and getting it through customs. So all the logistics of it has been really interesting, and I won't know until it actually arrives, and hopefully it'll arrive with me. Otherwise, I'm going to be running around the woods trying to recreate a piece from scratch. So yeah, that's going to be a fun, interesting thing. And,
have you been to Chile before?
I have actually. Okay, so I was up in northern Chile from Santiago up, and it's beautiful, absolutely wonderful. So to have the opportunity to go back and go down to Pucón is amazing. There's one of the oldest trees about 3 hours away, and I think it's Methuselah, or there's two vying for the oldest spot. So I'm hoping I can get an opportunity to go and see it.
Great. Good. We should just say the dates of the Fungi Festival, which is it the 12th to the 14th of September?
Yes.
It's down in East Sussex. It's a beautiful venue. Mycelium Hub will be there as well. We're going to be doing a workshop just in terms of learning from the mycelium and applying to we're doing a workshop there as well.
So 9:00 on Friday morning on the 12th, we open our gates. We have weekend tickets, we have Saturday day tickets, and we have Sunday family day tickets. So
that's right.
Children under 18 are free, accompanied by a parent. And we have lots of things available for children, so they are more than welcome to come. We really want to highlight the fact that this is, generational, and it's about starting young people as soon as possible and getting them interested, because they're the future.
We created an award as well, which is called the Roger Phillips Award. And for anybody who isn't familiar with Roger Phillips, he's a national treasure in terms of mycologist and botanist. He's the author of many books. One of his books was essentially the Bible. It was the first really comprehensive book I got, and we created this award to kind of honor a young mycologist. And last year we had an amazing winner. There's a young guy called Eben Grant.
Oh, yes,
he's already written 2 books.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, we've got submissions open this year for this year's award, and it was presented by Nikki Foy, who was Roger's wife, and also co-author on some of the books. Right. So yeah, that's really nice to do. That almost broke us, didn't it? Yeah. There's a picture of us on stage where we look like we're about to go. We tend to set each other off occasionally.
Right.
that does happen. If you see us crying at the festival, don't worry about it.
It's tears of joy.
Mostly, definitely. But that's the thing is, the Roger Phillips books are still so important and the test of time, because names and all kinds of information is always changing, but they're wonderful books. You've got Merlin Sheldrake's book, you've got Michael Punks have a great lineup of books if you're interested. I mean, what would be your go-to book, Collins?
My go-to book is a little bit expensive, but it's just incredible. It's called Fungi of Temperate Europe. There's 2 books, about 70 quid, and they're massive books. So they're not the sort of like...
Is it more like an encyclopedia type of thing, or not?
It's just very comprehensive of all the fungi that exists in temperate Europe.
Pretty pictures.
And the pictures are incredible.
Right, again.
So I'm a visual learner.
Yes.
I find I'm dyslexic, so lots of text doesn't really work for the way I learn. But if I see lots of mushrooms repeatedly, they stick. And mushrooms tend to look different throughout their life cycle as well. So when they're really young, you could suspect it's something. So following a mushroom to maturity is really important. But this book actually has pictures of young and old in quite a lot of instances, which is really useful. And it's just very easy to use. It's intuitive for me anyway. It works for my brain. They have these beautiful wheels which will help you and show you spore sizes and all these different things and color, and it's just, they're fantastic resources, and hopefully the authors will be at the festival at some stage soon.
Right.
So yeah, if you've got 70 quid spare, then you probably won't need any other books at the moment. If you're in Europe anyway, if around the world, that's it gets a bit tricky, because obviously you want a book specific to your area. But yeah, if for the European contingency, then check out Fungi of Temperate Europe, or FOTE as everyone refers to it. It's incredible.
The Bible.
I think what's really key that you made a point of is from growth, from the very start to the end, they change. I mean, Amanita muscaria, with when the white falls off.
A bit of a gotcha. There's mushrooms that I've found. There's one particular. It's really common. It's called Rhodocalibria. It's a buttercap is the common name anyway. And it's really common. You see it all the time. And I get a bit frustrated with it, because I see it so much. It gets a bit boring, which I shouldn't really say that. But when I photographed one when it was a baby, and it looks so beautiful and so different. It had all these like reds and interesting colours in the stipe. And nobody knew what it was, apart from one person, actually, Iona. She's a business partner of mine. I should probably mention that as well, actually.
Petrichor.
But just to get back to the story, she was just like, that's what that mushroom is, and I monitored it for a few days, and sure enough, it started to look more like a typical buttercap.
Right.
So yeah, it's really useful to have that experience. And I think with the boom in interest in mushrooms, a lot of people are, they've got 2 seasons, let's say seasons under their belt. I don't like to use the word season, because mushrooms are around all year, but there is a time in autumn when they're more prolific and more diverse species wise. But yeah, there's quite a few people that come into it, and you think you learn quite quickly with mushrooms, and you think, I'm getting to know this. I know what I'm doing here, and then suddenly you're like, actually, I have no clue about anything. And yeah, that's just interesting to see people that maybe looking at mushrooms for 2 seasons and think they know, and then realizing
lifelong learning.
I think so. I think for the rest of our lives we'll be learning that, but just learning what things look like when they're young and when they're old is important.
And flipping over the gills. I mean, that's also really key too, isn't it? Knowing what's underneath. All of it.
Just what trees nearby, what it's growing on, what it's associating with, gill attachment, spore color. I mean, there's so much to identifying fungi. I think more nowadays, I'm less inclined to even give it a species name. If I can work out the genus, I'm happy, because I know that if we were to sequence that mushroom, then we probably might be calling it the wrong name. Who knows? So unless we've got the sequence data, it's probably best just to leave it a genus, I guess.
I would love to mention about iNaturalist, which is a free app to download, and it's amazing, and it covers not just fungi but plants and animals, and it's been a real help to identify, to mark it down. And so if anybody's interested in recording their finds, go to iNaturalist. And
everybody should, really. It's great to understand the distribution, and I think as this citizen science thing is becoming more and more important, and I think we touched on mycology and being underfunded and understudied, there's not the money for these scientists to go out there. So it's great that the citizen scientists can go on a walk and document the species that they find, and then
that seems to be a growing. Certainly in my mycologist, the mushroom world. The importance of citizens, not the people that are getting paid, the scientists. It's that documenting this stuff, because isn't it something they estimate that there's less than 10% or 10% of the 10% of the world's fungi has only been identified. So there's a whole world out there of mushrooms still to be discovered.
Exactly. And even the ones that we thought,
and they can do things, and they've all got uses that we're finding out.
Seemingly, I think there's quite a lot of emphasis put on mushrooms, that mushrooms are going to save the world, or they're going to have these profound impacts on the planet. And I'm kind of a bit skeptical. I think humans look for the easy way out. I think fungi don't care about us. They're just doing their thing. When we're gone, they'll probably be happier. But you're right, there probably are practical uses for some of these things, or the enzymes that are being produced, or specifically in the mycoremediation sense. Then I think that's they're going to have some great uses there, for sure.
Good. Any closing comments? I think we can maybe wrap up. It's getting too hot here. It's unbelievably for Easter weekend. It's actually very hot.
I'd like to just
what would you like to hear?
Another project that I'm involved in with a couple of incredible mycologists, Iona Fraser and Vern Stothers. We've got a small kind of enterprise that we're starting. It's called Petrichor Ecology. And what we're hoping to do is take people out and give them these experiences, sensory experiences, nature connection. But we're trying to get funding for it so we can provide these sessions for free, where we take people out that are either ND or, maybe are struggling to find work and don't have the funds to be able to pay for these courses. So we're trying to set up a series of things, whether it's plant identification, fungi identification, or just going out and enjoying. We did one recently, which was UV rock pooling, where we took some kids out and looked in rock pools, which we do at the festival. Obviously not rock pooling, but we do a lot of UV evenings at the festival, and just kind of sensory fun experiences. But also we do surveys. We had a contract with Natural England not long ago for a grassland species survey, which was really interesting. We did some soil analysis that got sent off to Aberystwyth, and there was lots of interesting species there. So I just wanted to mention those guys because they are incredible mycologists, and they really help me out when I get stuck with things. And it's great to be part of their team.
Fantastic. Great. I think we'll put that in the show notes as well. And Nikki, anything else you'd like to just close with?
Yeah, just if this piques anybody's interest, please reach out to us. We're always available to answer any questions. If you're interested in the festival, we'd love for you to come along. We're just, we hope that via music or art or through the lectures that you will just give mushrooms a little bit of time and see if it's something that you would like to find out more about. And the thing is, you don't have to go deep into the woods to find them. They are on your doorstep. I mean, we went out, we did the whole circle out here. Didn't really find much. And, 10 feet across the road, we found a few, species or fungi. So they're everywhere. You just open your eyes and they'll delight you.
Right. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for coming down today, and look forward to. I can't wait for the festival. It's only a few months away now, so we're really looking forward to it. Thanks so much again for coming.
Well,
thanks for inviting us.
So excited to have Mycelium Hub at the festival, and it's been wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess you're going to add links, but allthingsfungi.co.uk is where you can find tickets.
Absolutely, it's great. Thanks so much. Bye bye.